The colony of Navara 9 had been a battlefield for years. Fires burned in the distance, and the sky was filled with smoke and the distant flashes of explosions. Ships from both sides of the Galactic War roamed above the planet, dropping supplies, troops, or bombs depending on who controlled the orbit at the moment. The people who lived on the planet had learned to survive amid the chaos, moving through ruined buildings and empty streets with quiet caution. Life had become a matter of endurance. Commander Richard Hale was a man feared by everyone on Navara 9. He had strict rules, and anyone who broke them, even unintentionally, faced harsh consequences. Soldiers obeyed him without question. Discipline was more important than compassion in his view. One day, a human baby was born in a small hidden settlement on the outskirts of the colony. The child's cry echoed through the ruined corridors of what had once been a thriving home. People who saw the baby were filled with awe and fear. It was a tiny, fragile life in the middle of a galaxy at war, and Commander Hale had already made his judgment. When the news of the birth reached him, he immediately called for action. "The child cannot survive," he said firmly. "It may carry traits we cannot control. We cannot risk its existence. Prepare the team. The order is clear." Soldiers were dispatched to find the infant and eliminate it. They moved quickly, checking ruins, abandoned shelters, and old temples for any sign of the baby. Civilians who had hidden the child trembled, fearing both for their own lives and for the baby. In the midst of the chaos, one infant lay alone in the ruins of an old temple. The building had once been a place of worship and learning, but now it was shattered, with collapsed walls and broken pillars. Dust coated the floors, and the wind whispered through cracks in the stone. The baby's small cry echoed faintly, almost swallowed by the sounds of distant explosions. It was tiny, with soft skin, a faint warmth radiating from its small body, and eyes that seemed unusually bright even in the dim light. The soldiers approached, their weapons raised. They scanned the temple carefully, moving from room to room, expecting to find the child quickly. But the baby was hidden well. Someone, perhaps fate or chance, had placed the child behind a pile of fallen stone, and it had not been discovered. The soldiers searched for hours, moving carefully but growing frustrated. The baby remained unseen, protected by the ruins themselves. As night fell, the war seemed to pause for a moment. The sky above Navara 9 was filled with streaks of light from distant ships, and the dust in the air shimmered faintly under the fading sun. The infant slept, small chest rising and falling with each breath, unaware of the danger surrounding it. Its tiny fingers curled as if reaching for something it could not yet see. The ruins were silent except for the baby's soft breathing, a quiet contrast to the chaos outside. Far above, in the mountains surrounding the colony, a creature watched. A massive dragon, scales shining faintly in the twilight, observed the temple from a distance. Its eyes glowed with intelligence, reflecting the baby's faint cries. The dragon had lived in the shadows of Navara 9 for years, avoiding humans as much as possible. Yet something about the child drew it near. It sensed the fragility, the innocence, and something extraordinary in the tiny human. The dragon moved silently, its wings folding as it approached the temple. It landed near the ruins without making a sound. The soldiers, distracted by the chaos of the colony and distant alarms, did not notice. The dragon's massive claw reached gently toward the pile of stones where the infant lay. With careful precision, it lifted the baby, cradling it against its chest. The infant stirred but did not cry, sensing warmth and safety from the dragon. Thaler the dragon examined the infant closely. Its eyes, bright and curious, met the dragon's golden gaze. There was an understanding there, something that went beyond words. The baby was small, human, and fragile, yet it carried a spark that made the dragon wary and protective at the same time. Thaler made a decision. The child would live, hidden away from humans who feared it, from soldiers who sought to destroy it, and from the chaos of the war. With the baby secured, Thaler spread its wings and took flight. The wind rushed past, carrying dust and debris, but the child was safe against the dragon's warm chest. They rose into the mountains, leaving the temple behind, leaving the soldiers searching in vain. The lights of the distant colony flickered below, unaware that one tiny life had escaped their control. The dragon found a secluded cave far from human settlements. The cave was large, with natural chambers and high ceilings. It had clear water flowing nearby and small ledges where the dragon could rest. Here the baby would be safe. Thaler laid the infant down on soft moss, watching over it carefully. The child's eyes opened slightly, and the dragon's presence seemed to calm it. There was no fear, only warmth and protection. Night settled over the mountains. The wind howled softly outside, but inside the cave, there was a quiet peace. Thaler stayed close, coiling its massive body protectively around the baby. The infant's small fingers brushed against the dragon's scales, and a faint smile touched the baby's lips. For the first time it seemed the child was truly safe. As the stars appeared above the mountains, Thaler whispered softly, almost to itself, "You will live. I will keep you safe." The baby cooed in response, a tiny sound that seemed full of promise. The dragon understood that the war outside would continue, that humans and soldiers might never forgive the child's existence, but none of that mattered now. In this moment life was preserved. And so, the forbidden birth ended not in death, but in protection. The infant, unknown to the galaxy, was cradled by a dragon. The child's life, small and fragile, had begun under the wings of a creature of legend. The ruins of Navara 9 remained behind, filled with fear and orders from humans who could not see the truth. But above the mountains, in a quiet, hidden cave, a dragon and a human infant began a story that would one day change the galaxy. Years passed quietly in the hidden mountains, far from the chaos of Navara 9. Eli, the human child who had survived the forbidden birth, grew taller and stronger with each passing season. He had soft brown hair that curled slightly in the wind and bright green eyes that sparkled with curiosity and determination. Every morning he would wake to the warm light of the sun streaming through the cave entrance, and Thaler, the massive dragon who had raised him, would be there watching over him. Thaler was no ordinary dragon. His scales shimmered with hints of gold and bronze, and his eyes glowed with intelligence and patience. From the moment he had found Eli, he had been determined to protect the child and teach him everything he could. Every lesson was carefully designed to prepare Eli for a world he might one day face, a world of danger, war, and wonder. The first lessons were simple. Thaler taught Eli how to climb the rocky cliffs surrounding the cave safely. "Your hands and feet are your tools," the dragon rumbled in a deep, calm voice. "You must know how to use them to survive." Eli listened carefully, gripping rocks and testing his balance. At first he fell often, scraping knees and elbows, but Thaler never scolded him. Instead he encouraged Eli to try again, explaining patiently how to shift his weight, where to place his fingers, and how to judge the strength of a ledge. Soon Eli moved with confidence, climbing higher and faster than he had ever imagined possible. Hunting came next. Thaler taught him to track small animals, read footprints in the dirt, and understand the behavior of creatures in the mountains. "Observe," Thaler said. "Patience is more important than speed." Eli learned to move quietly through the forests, to crouch and wait, to notice the subtle signs of life that others might miss. With practice he could catch fish in the icy rivers, snare rabbits without startling them, and even coax fruit from high trees. These skills gave him confidence and independence. Thaler also taught Eli about the stars. Each night, the dragon would spread his massive wings and glide to a ledge where they could see the entire sky. "Look up," Thaler said, pointing a claw toward the heavens. "The stars are older than you or me. They are maps, guides, and stories. Learn them and you will never be lost." Eli memorized constellations, learned to track the movements of planets, and even began to understand the subtle ways the stars could signal changes in weather or danger. The night skies became a source of wonder, and a symbol of the vast universe he would one day explore. Ancient languages were another gift Thaler shared. Written on stone tablets and hidden in the caves were symbols humans had long forgotten. The dragon patiently taught Eli to read and understand them, explaining that knowledge was more powerful than any weapon. "Words carry ideas," Thaler explained. "Ideas shape actions. A mind prepared is stronger than any army." Eli spent hours copying symbols, learning sounds, and practicing the meanings until he could understand the old texts and even write his own messages in the ancient language. Swimming in Draven's icy rivers was one of the hardest challenges. Eli shivered the first few times he plunged into the freezing water, gasping for breath as the current tugged at him. But Thaler was always there, hovering above the riverbank, letting Eli struggle safely and encouraging him with quiet words. "The water tests your courage and endurance. Do not fear it. Respect it." After many attempts, Eli became strong in the water, able to dive beneath the surface, navigate rapids, and swim for long distances. The rivers became a training ground, teaching him resilience, patience, and trust in his own strength. Eli also learned from observing Thaler's wisdom in daily life. The dragon moved with quiet purpose, always aware of the surroundings, noticing threats long before Eli could. Thaler taught him to listen, to hear the whisper of wind, the rustle of leaves, the faintest change in temperature. "The world speaks," Thaler explained. "If you listen, you will always know more than those who rush and shout." Over time Eli's senses sharpened. He could hear approaching storms, sense the movement of animals, and even notice distant humans before they came near the cave. Beyond survival skills, Thaler nurtured Eli's courage and heart. Strength is nothing without wisdom, the dragon reminded him. And power is dangerous without compassion. Eli learned to care for creatures smaller than himself, to share food with the mountain animals, and to act with thoughtfulness rather than recklessness. He became brave but not reckless, strong but not cruel, clever but always mindful of the consequences of his actions. Play and learning were intertwined. Eli would race Thaler along the cliffs, though the dragon moved easily and with effortless speed. He would play hide and seek in the forests, discovering secret paths, caves and clearings. Each game taught him strategy, observation and patience. Though he was human and small compared to Thaler, he learned to match the dragon's wisdom with his own ingenuity. By the time Eli reached his early teens, he was no ordinary human. He was agile, strong and alert, with the intelligence and knowledge that set him apart from other humans. Yet he never feared the world outside the mountains. Thaler's presence gave him confidence and comfort. Whenever Eli felt doubt or fear, the dragon's massive body and golden eyes reminded him that he was protected and guided. Eli and Thaler also developed a unique form of communication. Words were not always necessary. A glance, a tilt of the head, or a soft chirp or rumble was enough to convey meaning. They understood each other completely. Thaler trusted Eli and Eli trusted the dragon completely. This bond became the foundation of Eli's courage, the core of his wisdom, and the source of his extraordinary abilities. The mountains became their sanctuary. Human soldiers never approached, unaware of the dragon-raised child hidden above the colony. Eli grew not only in skill and strength but in spirit. He learned that the galaxy could be dangerous, full of humans who feared or misunderstood what they could not control. Yet he also learned that courage, wisdom and care could make a difference, even in a harsh and hostile world. Every day Eli practiced the lessons Thaler gave him. He climbed, hunted, swam, studied and explored. Each skill added to his growing confidence. He understood that one day he might leave the mountains, face the galaxy, and perhaps change the course of human history. But for now he was safe, strong and free under the guidance of the dragon who had saved his life. In the quiet evenings, Eli would sit on a high ledge with Thaler, watching the sunset paint the mountains in gold and red. The dragon's deep rumble was comforting, like a lullaby he had never had as a baby. Eli knew that the war still raged far below, that humans and soldiers would never forgive what they had called a forbidden birth. But Eli did not fear. He had Thaler's wisdom, strength and guidance. He was prepared not just to survive, but to face the future with courage, skill and heart. And so, the child who had been born forbidden grew into a young human with extraordinary abilities, nurtured and protected by a dragon who had taken him as his own. The mountains were their world, the skies their playground, and the quiet lessons of survival, wisdom and courage were shaping Eli into a force that might one day change the galaxy forever. Marcus Lane moved carefully along the rocky trails of the Navaranine Mountains, his boots crunching softly on loose stones. He had been sent on a secret reconnaissance mission by the human resistance. The war had stretched across the galaxy, and scouts like him were tasked with gathering intelligence on enemy movements, abandoned settlements and hidden areas. He had seen many strange things in his life, but nothing prepared him for what he would find that day. As he climbed higher, Marcus noticed unusual tracks in the soil. They were large and clawed, not like any animal he had seen. The impressions were deep, showing that the creature who made them was massive and powerful. He paused, crouching to examine the trail. Nearby, small markings scratched into the rock seemed deliberate, symbols he could not understand. Marcus's curiosity grew, mixed with a creeping sense of caution. Following the tracks and symbols, he discovered a small cabin nestled among jagged boulders. Smoke rose from a chimney, faint but steady. The place looked hidden, carefully tucked away from any view from below. Marcus stopped a few steps from the cabin, taking cover behind a rock. His hand rested on his blaster, ready in case danger appeared. He had been trained for conflict, but the sense of the unknown here was different. From the doorway of the cabin he saw a figure, a human boy no older than 14 or 15. Eli had bright green eyes that seemed to notice every detail of his surroundings. He was speaking softly, almost as if chanting, and Marcus realized the boy was communicating with another presence. The sound of wings moving through the air made Marcus look up, and there, coiled gracefully around the cliff's edge, was a massive dragon. Its scales glimmered with bronze and gold in the sunlight. Marcus froze. Dragons were creatures of legend, feared by humans for centuries. The stories of their power, intelligence, and danger were known throughout the colonies. Marcus had always been cautious of myths, but standing here he realized they were very real. His fingers tightened on the grip of his blaster. He had been trained to fight enemies, not creatures like this. Yet as he watched, he noticed something remarkable. Eli the boy was unafraid. He gestured gently toward the dragon, who lowered its massive head in response. They communicated with gestures, tones, and subtle movements. There was trust and understanding between them. Marcus crouched lower, unsure whether to retreat or continue watching. The boy's calm demeanor surprised him. Humans rarely showed such fearlessness, especially in the presence of a dragon. Eli's confidence suggested experience and intelligence far beyond his age. Marcus noticed that the boy's movements were careful and precise, mirroring lessons someone had taught him well. Whoever raised this child had been wise. The dragon, Thaler, shifted slightly, its eyes scanning the surrounding mountains. Marcus realized it was protecting the boy, watching not only the immediate area but even beyond the mountains. The creature's intelligence was clear. It could sense threats before they appeared, and it had chosen to bond with Eli, raising him with care and attention. This was more than instinct, it was deliberate guidance. Marcus slowly stepped closer, trying to get a better view of the pair. He thought about the implications. A human raised by a dragon? Such a thing had been considered impossible, a myth whispered among resistance fighters to keep morale alive. Yet here it was, alive and real. His mind raced with questions. How had this child survived? How had the dragon cared for him? And, most importantly, what potential did this boy have if trained properly? Eli noticed Marcus finally and turned to face him. His expression was curious but not hostile. Marcus raised his hand slowly, signaling that he meant no harm. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said cautiously. "I'm Marcus Lane. I'm with the human resistance." Eli studied him, then glanced at Thaler. The dragon's massive head tilted slightly as if asking permission. Eli nodded once and turned back to Marcus. "You're far from the base," he said calmly. "Who sent you here?" His voice carried confidence and clarity that startled Marcus. Marcus lowered his weapon fully, feeling a mix of relief and awe. "I'm scouting the area. I didn't expect this," he said, gesturing at Thaler. "I didn't expect you." Eli smiled faintly, standing tall even though he was small compared to the dragon. "This is my home. I live here. He protects me. We live together." He indicated Thaler with a sweep of his hand. Marcus could see the bond, the trust, respect, and loyalty between boy and dragon. It was rare, almost impossible, yet it was real. Marcus realized immediately that this child was extraordinary. Not just because he had survived, but because he had learned skills, wisdom, and courage from the dragon. He had grown strong, intelligent, and fearless. Marcus thought of the human resistance struggling against enemies far stronger than they were. This boy, this dragon-raised human, could change everything. He spoke carefully, knowing how important his next words were. "Eli, I think your life, your skills, they could help many people. The resistance could use someone like you." Eli tilted his head, considering this, glancing briefly at Thaler. The dragon rumbled softly, a sound like a low vibration, as if agreeing that Eli should listen. Marcus spent the next hours explaining carefully. He did not push, only presented facts. He spoke of the war, the struggles humans faced, and the need for courage and leadership. Eli listened, absorbing everything. He asked questions, showing intelligence, curiosity, and understanding far beyond his years. Marcus could see immediately that Eli was ready for more than just survival. As night fell over the mountains, Marcus knew he had made an important discovery. He had found a child with remarkable abilities, raised in secret by a dragon, unknown to the rest of humanity. The implications were staggering. Eli's existence was a secret that could bring hope in a galaxy consumed by war. Marcus understood that he would need to return carefully, report his findings, and protect Eli until the resistance could decide how to act. Before leaving, Marcus offered one last word. "You've done well surviving. But the world is bigger than these mountains. You could help change it." Eli nodded, understanding, and looked up at Thaler. The dragon rumbled in agreement. Eli's green eyes reflected determination. He had been hidden for years, protected and guided, but now he understood that his skills, courage, and heart could have a purpose beyond the mountains. Marcus left the mountains quietly, careful not to alert anyone to Eli's presence. He returned to the resistance base, his mind racing. This child, this dragon-raised human, could be a turning point in the war. The story he would tell was unbelievable, yet he had seen it with his own eyes. A human, intelligent, brave, and fearless, living alongside a dragon ready to shape the future. Eli watched Marcus disappear into the distance, standing beside Thaler. He felt excitement he had never known. The mountains were home, but he also felt a spark of curiosity about the world beyond. Thaler's wings flared slightly, a reminder of the protection and guidance that had shaped him. Eli was ready to learn more, to grow stronger, and to discover what role he might play in the galaxy he had been hidden from all his life. The quiet mountains were shattered one morning by the distant roar of engines and the bright flashes of weapons fire. Enemy scouts had discovered Thaler's lair and were moving to destroy both the dragon and the human boy who had grown under its care. Eli, now a strong and clever teenager, sensed the danger immediately. His green eyes scanned the mountains, noting the approach of enemy ships and soldiers. He had trained for this with Thaler, but now the challenge was real. Thaler rumbled deeply, wings spreading wide, scales shimmering in the morning sun. "They come for us, Eli. You must be ready," the dragon said. Eli nodded, feeling the familiar mixture of fear and courage he had learned to manage over the years. He knew that the survival of both humans and dragons depended on their ability to fight together, using both strategy and strength. The enemy descended on the mountainside, landing armored troops in multiple locations. Their goal was clear: eliminate the dragon and capture or kill Eli. But Eli had spent years learning from Thaler. He knew the terrain perfectly, the cliffs, the forests, the hidden paths. He quickly positioned himself and the dragon to make the best use of the landscape. "Marcus!" Eli shouted, recognizing the scout who had found him months before. Marcus had returned with a small team of human resistance fighters. They carried weapons, shields, and equipment, but Eli could see fear in their eyes. "Trust me," Eli said calmly. "We can do this together." Thaler let out a powerful roar, sending a gust of wind that knocked over enemy drones and scattered their troops. Fire flared from the dragon's mouth, not indiscriminately but with precision, targeting only enemy machinery while keeping humans safe. Eli moved among the fighters, shouting instructions. He pointed, directed, and coordinated, using signals Marcus and the others quickly understood. The enemy tried to advance, but the combination of human strategy and dragon power was overwhelming. Eli had trained to anticipate enemy movements, using the high cliffs and hidden valleys to trap their forces. The dragons swooped down, their wings creating gusts of wind that disrupted enemy ranks. Fire from Thaler and the other dragons forced soldiers to retreat, while Eli guided humans to flank and disable machinery. It was chaos and beauty at once. Dragons flying through the skies, breathing fire in controlled bursts, humans moving with careful precision, and Eli at the center of it all, orchestrating the defense. He shouted encouragement to both dragons and humans, showing courage that inspired everyone. "Hold your ground. Watch the flanks. Follow my lead." The enemy underestimated the boy. They had expected fear and weakness, but Eli displayed calm intelligence, bravery, and leadership beyond his years. He used traps, signaling rocks and ropes that had been set up around the mountains, forcing enemy vehicles into narrow passes where dragons could attack safely. Eli moved like a commander, not a child, guiding the humans to defend their positions while minimizing their risk. Thaler stayed close to Eli, acting as both protector and partner. Every movement of the boy was mirrored by the dragon. They communicated silently, a glance, a tilt of the head, a soft rumble, and the other responded instantly. Together they were unstoppable. Enemy soldiers fell back in confusion, unable to predict where the next attack would come from. The mountains became an advantage, a fortress that humans and dragons defended as one. Hours passed, but Eli's energy never wavered. He had trained for years with Thaler to be ready for challenges like this. He moved swiftly, thinking ahead, using the dragon's strength and the human skills in perfect coordination. Marcus watched in awe. He had seen the boy's training, but witnessing it in battle was different. Eli was not only skilled, he was inspiring. The humans fought with courage they did not know they had, driven by the leadership of a human raised by a dragon. Finally, the enemy began to retreat. Their vehicles disabled, their soldiers scattered, and their morale broken, they withdrew from the mountains. The skies cleared of smoke and fire. The dragons circled high above, their massive wings casting shadows over the victorious humans below. Eli stood with Thaler, breathing heavily but smiling. He had done it. Together, humans and dragons had defended the lair, proving that courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome even a powerful enemy. Marcus approached, shaking his head in disbelief. "I never thought I'd see a human and a dragon work together like that," he said. Eli nodded, glancing at Thaler. "We can do more than survive," he said. "We can protect others. We can show humans and dragons can be allies, not enemies." The mountains were quiet once more, except for the soft rumbles of dragons and the sounds of humans checking their positions and equipment. Eli knew the war was not over, but today they had proven that even in the darkest times, courage and unity could triumph. The dragons stayed near, watching over humans and the terrain, while Eli moved among the humans, helping the wounded, checking defenses and preparing for what might come next. In the end, the Galactic Challenge had shown Eli's true abilities. He was no longer just the child who had been raised in secret. He was a leader, brave and wise, able to guide humans and dragons together. His courage had saved lives, and his intelligence had turned a desperate situation into a decisive victory. Thaler lowered his massive head, nudging Eli gently. "You have learned well," the dragon rumbled. Eli smiled, understanding that their training and bond had made all the difference. The humans now looked at him not as a boy, but as someone capable of extraordinary leadership, someone who had the courage to face overwhelming danger and win. And as the sun set over the mountains, Eli and Thaler stood side by side, victorious, ready to face whatever challenges the galaxy might throw at them next. The legend of the dragon-raised human was no longer a secret. It had begun to inspire hope across the stars. After the battle, Eli left the mountains for the first time in many years. The sky above the human settlements seemed brighter than he remembered, the air filled with the distant hum of activity rather than the chaos of war. Marcus Lane and the resistance leaders had arranged a safe passage for him. The moment Eli stepped onto the streets of the colony, humans stopped and stared. Whispers spread quickly. This was the boy who had been raised by a dragon, the one who had led a defense against a powerful enemy. Eli walked calmly, remembering all that Thaler had taught him. Courage was important, but so was humility. Strength was nothing without wisdom. He did not boast about the victories or the dragons who had helped him. Instead, he spoke softly, encouraging humans to work together, to trust each other, and to learn from the past. People were amazed that someone so young could carry himself with such calm authority and insight. Leaders of the resistance came to meet him. They asked about his upbringing, his skills, and the dragons. Eli explained that Thaler had raised him not to conquer, but to survive, to learn, and to respect life. "We can fight," Eli said, "but we can also build. Strength must protect, not destroy." His words carried weight because they were true, born from years of living with a creature of legend and seeing the consequences of fear and hatred. The dragons, meanwhile, remained nearby. Thaler had agreed to accompany Eli to the edge of human settlements but kept the dragons mostly hidden. Humans were still wary of such massive and intelligent creatures. Yet even the sight of them circling above gave people hope. They realized that dragons and humans could be allies, that ancient myths of terror could turn into stories of protection and friendship. Eli worked quietly, helping rebuild colonies damaged during the war. He guided humans in strategies for defense, but also in collaboration and understanding. He showed them how to live with the land, how to respect other creatures, and how to prepare for challenges without panic or cruelty. His presence reminded humans that even in the darkest times, cooperation and courage could prevail. Children were particularly fascinated by Eli. They asked questions about Thaler, the dragons, and life in the mountains. Eli told stories of his training, of learning patience, and of respecting creatures far stronger than himself. He encouraged them to explore, to learn, and to help others. The children's laughter and curiosity became symbols of hope for the future, inspired by the boy who had been raised by a dragon. The leaders recognized Eli's unique qualities. They admired his courage, but even more, they respected his wisdom and humility. He did not seek power or recognition. Instead, he used his skills to unite humans and to bridge the gap between fear and understanding. Many of the older soldiers, hardened by years of war, followed his guidance, learning from the way he led not by force but by example. As time passed, Eli became a symbol of hope and unity across the colonies. Humans spoke of the dragon-raised boy who had saved lives and shown them a new path. His legend grew not because of victories in battle alone, but because of the way he lived, the choices he made, and the courage he inspired. He proved that even someone who began life as forbidden could become a force for good in the galaxy. Thaler and the dragons stayed near, watching quietly from mountains and skies. They remained protectors, but they also became symbols of the possibility of coexistence. Humans learned to respect them, to understand their intelligence and power, and to recognize that courage could come from unexpected places. Eli often returned to the mountains, sitting on high ledges with Thaler, looking out over the settlements below. He thought about the years he had spent in hiding, the lessons he had learned, and the challenges he had faced. He realized that the greatest power he had was not strength or magic, but the ability to inspire trust, courage, and hope in others. In the years that followed, Eli guided humans quietly but effectively. He never demanded a throne or title. He led by example, showing that humans and dragons could thrive together, that courage and wisdom mattered more than fear and war. Colonies rebuilt, communities worked together, and the galaxy remembered him not as a warrior or conqueror, but as the boy who had been saved by a dragon, who had learned, grown, and returned to help humanity rise stronger than before. Eli's story spread far beyond the mountains. Humans and dragons alike carried the tale forward, passing it to the next generations. The lessons of courage, kindness, and unity became part of the culture. Children learned that even in the darkest times, a single life, guided with care and love, could make a difference. As the sun set over the human settlements and the mountains beyond, Eli sat with Thaler, feeling the warmth of a world that had survived, healed, and grown. The dragon's quiet presence reminded him of the bond that had shaped his life. He understood that his journey was only one chapter in the galaxy's story, but it was enough to show that courage, compassion, and wisdom could change everything. Eli never forgot Thaler's lessons, and the galaxy never forgot Eli. The forbidden birth that once threatened to be a tragedy had become a legend of hope, unity, and courage. Humans and dragons, once separate and fearful, now shared a future shaped by understanding and trust. Eli's life had shown that even the smallest, most fragile beginnings could grow into something extraordinary.